your business. This is going to be like a 4-hour workshop. I'm just kidding. About me, yeah, I'm an IT person. I've been in software development industry for a couple of decades. Worked both in product companies as well as service companies. Worked with small startups as well as large enterprises, up to 500 mil of revenue, up to 5,000 people in headcount. And I actually know up to everything about software development business. So 3 main pillars of my background is service delivery management and product management, business development, and internal operations in the whole range from financial management through like security and compliance towards management and expansion of international network of production sites with a lot of exciting things and projects in between. I spent last 6 years of my life in Luxoft. Exciting 6 years. I served as a chief operating officer in its financial line of business, which is responsible for 60% of company profits. I'm a free agent for 2 months now, and here I'm speaking in a capacity of change agent, a person who actually enables their companies, their founders, their executives to recharge, to boost their growth, to boost their efficiency. This is who I am. I would like, of course, to know who you are, the 4 categories of audience, of listeners, which will get most benefits out of this presentation, out of this speech, are co-founders, business owners, which is defined like heads of product management department or service delivery departments or any other revenue generating departments. You will get a lot here if you have an outcome-based responsibility, which basically means that your welfare directly depends on how fast you run around. This is a typical work of a sales agent. And also, if you hold an entrepreneurial position, like you get the market, you get the geography, go conquer it. You get the basic business idea, go create a product for it, right, based on it. So how much of you, raise your hands, who fits into any of those 4 categories? All right, quite a few. Who of you do not belong to them yet, but hope to become one of these in the future? All right, cool. Now, an important disclaimer. There is a category of people who will most likely not like what I'm going to talk about. So if you're a control freak, if you do not like collaboration, if you do not like delegation, you feel free to leave. This is not going to be pretty useful for you anyway. Now, having said this, why do startups fail? The first question which I suggest you to think about. Any ideas? What's the most popular reason of startups to fail?
They do things no one needs.
Exactly. So the product which is not needed at the market. Like 40+% of startups fail because of this. Second popular reason.
They don't have a good finance plan.
Great. So 1% hit. So the second popular reason is they run out of cash. Spent everything or just didn't raise enough money. Now the third reason in this infamous top 3 is not the right team in place. The other reasons are ignored customers, or lost focus, or disharmony among the teams, within the teams, between investors, right? So what's the common point among all these reasons? This is all about internal housekeeping. This is all about how you run the company. This is all about how you run your team. if you're a manager and not a company owner. This is pretty much applicable to you as well. There are a few quotations from the people, from the founders of startups who suffered exactly because of these mistakes. So for not the right team, one of unhappy founder said that the founding team couldn't build an MVP, minimal viable product, on its own. That was a mistake. If the founding team can't put our product on its own, or with a small amount of external help from freelancers, they shouldn't be founding a startup. We could have brought on additional co-founders who would have been compensated primarily with equity versus cash, but we didn't. Bitter story. There are similar stories behind each of these reasons. So just to reiterate, when you start your business, when you become the newly baked manager, right, external relations are very important. Validity of your product is very important. But internal matters, internal housekeeping is very important as well. So we will discuss how small techniques, actually very hands-on techniques, right, which you could utilize right away to become more efficient leaders, more efficient founders, more efficient managers, to be able to enable your team to grow. Anyone recognizes yourself in this picture? Maybe if you have a boss, your boss is like this. Yeah, probably everyone here in this room, in this audience, sometimes feel like this guy. Probably some of you always feel like this guy. Raise your hand who do not. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So I know that some of you work pretty hard, so I'm not sure what your hands mean in this case, but yeah. Now looking at this, and this is like a typical newly baked manager, typical newly baked founder. It's great to tell change or die, right? This is not a statement which your investors or your boss would like to pass on to you. They would say, man, you first change, and then you may die if you want. So this is, unavoidable. Once your team grows over a certain amount of size, you have to change. So where is the first threshold, right? When does it happen? When this squad of eager soldiers become kind of crowd, and you can easily see the change of attitude in these faces, right? Like 20 people, 25, maybe 30, hardly more, right? So when your team approaches this critical size, it's better that you prepare in advance. So the next threshold happens around 50 people. When your team is at this size, you can still understand who does what. You can still match names to faces, but you cannot talk to everyone face-to-face on a regular basis, which you are still able to do before this threshold. And the next critical point is 100 people, when I bet hardly any one of you will be able to readily match names with faces. So when it's 100 people, you see the new face, well, come on, who is this? Who's this guy? What's his name? Who hired him? What's he going to do, right? Familiar story, right? So 3 main critical points, they are tackled in more or less similar way for you as a manager. Not rocket science, right? To be able to scale yourself and your team, there are 4 areas you want to pay your attention to. Your mindset, roles, process, and structure, which is boring for many, but still. You have to tackle culture and people, which is like a blue ocean for many of technical people. People with technical background do not even understand what this is about. And finally, you have to delegate somehow to whoever and refocus on the things which are much more essential for you to be efficient. So again, small little techniques on each of these areas which you could start implementing right away if you want to try to become more efficient. So your mindset, a different animal for those who less like cats maybe. Feel free to associate you with dogs or cats, whatever. So attitude. The first rule of efficient manager, as a few speakers has passed on from this stage already, is whatever happens, you're responsible for everything. You might feel bored, you might feel frustrated, you might hate all these people around, but you're still responsible for the result. The other side of the coin is actually much better news. If you are responsible for the bad results, you are as well responsible for good results. So you get the most benefits from what your team succeeds in. There is a popular wording that the coach is responsible for failures, the team is responsible for successes. It actually doesn't work like this, right? Whoever responsible is, they are responsible for everything, right? So this is the cornerstone, like change of your mindset, which you might want to try to implement. Now to more practical things, time management, time protection. Tons of books have been wrote on this. You spend, I believe, thousands of man-hours working through these books. What I suggest you to start with, install a timekeeper software and spend a couple of weeks and use it for a couple of weeks just recording what you do on a day-to-day basis. In small pieces, right, with small intervals. Even small activities like answering a phone call, whatever, chatting with a friend or with a colleague, whatever else. 2 weeks, you will get enormously clear picture of what you do at work in fact. When I first did it for myself, I was like, what the crap I'm doing at all? Like 60% of things could be easily delegated or avoided, or just given up. These dozens of times when I switch from one activity to another, being interrupted in the middle of something, right? So very insightful exercise for everyone. I suggest this to each and every person I'm talking to, and a lot of them actually got great insights out of this. So once you understand what you really spend your time on, it is likely that you do not need any more books about time management. You are smart enough to understand on your own how you are going to tackle it. Speaking about another popular time killer, right? The biggest time killer actually is people we work for, right? This is great to work in the team, but we need to admit that working in the team eats out a lot of our time. So my suggestion, again, simple but efficient: learn to say no. When you're interrupted by someone, when your client wants to talk about whatever conditions of the contract which you are not going to change anyway, when your colleague or a member of your team comes over to you to yammer or just to talk about philosophical things which you are not feeling prepared to talk about, just say no. Now, I admit that for majority of introverts, a lot of IT people are introverts, we need to admit this. So for majority of people, it is hard just to say no, right? So a simple word which you can add to this. Say, sorry, no. Much easier for yourself and much more efficient for the people who actually hear this. So this is about time protection. Now, boss versus leader. Yet another concept which appears in each and every website, each and every book, each and every inspirational speech you hear from anywhere, right? We all know that boss manages by authority, talks vertically, the leader manages by inspiration and talks horizontally. I suggest that you evaluate yourself using 3C classification. So what is it about? Just remember, recollect the last time when you had to tackle a challenging problem together with your team, right? A project came up which you don't know what to do, a problem from the customer, I don't know, a ticket, a request from whatever regulators, and you don't know how to do this. So you bring your team together among the round table or over Zoom or Skype, whatever it is, and you pass them a certain message, right? One of the 3 messages. So you either ultimately tell them how to do this, or you invite them to the discussion, or finally you ask them to tell you as a manager how they are going to approach this problem. So for the majority of startups, for the majority of newly created teams, the collaborator method works well. This mindset works well. Once the company or the team grows beyond 20 or 30 people, you may feel that you're naturally drifting towards the captain style or towards the coach style. This is fine. Feel free to drift in any direction. Again, the good diagnostic point of this classification is to check whether you are a right person, whether you manage the team in a right way, as long as it is small. And 2 other hints. I believe all of you, or majority of you, are more or less familiar with this urgency importance matrix. So 2 hints here. First of all, stop maintaining long hundreds and thousands of action items in your backlogs. You will hardly even scroll down to it, to the very end. Dump anything of low urgency, of low importance, dump and forget immediately. Don't even bother adding it to the backlog. When it gets more urgent, when it gets more important, you will naturally recollect it and reconsider it. The other point here is about delegation. Obviously, when the team size is small, you naturally face the situation when you don't have like a dedicated person or dedicated function which you want to delegate something to, especially when it comes to administrative type of job, right? Say we're a small startup, we want to establish a conference for our clients to bring them together. So there's a whole project, and we are all computer geeks, so who do I delegate it to? So for this case, consider getting an assistant or an administrator, so a smart young person who will be able to do administrative things, organizational type of things on your behalf, right? Ukraine is in a very good position from this perspective. There is a lot of smart, well-educated young people with high IQ who will be happy to start at low positions, doing administrative type of job, doing this well, for very, very small amount of money, very small salary. Excuse me for me being cynical, right? So these people will do a lot for you. Now, roles, processes, structure. I'm not going to encourage you to, write down bunches of paper covering all the processes you have in your company, but you need to document the basic decisions. So how do you make a decision that the release is good enough to go into production? How do you handle complaints of your clients or users? How do you handle complaints of VIP clients of your users, right? So this is all needed to be thought through, documented, and agreed by the team. Now, an important point here for you as a manager, and somewhat an unpleasant point, is that once you have the process in place, documented, and signed off, you, as a part of this process, is bound by it. So you have to follow it. On the contrary, as a good news, you have a right to stipulate a waiver, right? So like a small footnote that in urgent case or a critical case, whoever CEO or COO has the power to act, to cut it short, to bypass any process, to work in the manner he or she deems necessary, right? Until this is clearly documented, any case when you do not follow your own process, your team will not like it at all. Again, these specifics of like IT mentality, like technological people mentality, whatever is not written down, they react negatively to these type of things. The last hint here is metrics, right? And the common question, like philosophical, speculational question is, what do we want to measure? Do we want to measure process or want to measure outcome? So the question is both. Of course, as a founder of the company, reporting to the investors, or as a manager reporting to your boss, you are going to report the results. But to be able to know what the results are going to be, what the results are going to show you, and your investors and your managers, you need to monitor the process. This is why we measure defect density or number of defects, not just after the release is in production, but long time before. Next area is culture and people. Very unfamiliar and somewhat scary topic for majority of introversial IT people. Vision, mission, values, mantra. Who can tell apart the difference between vision and mission right away? Raise your hands. All right, so 1, 2, now 3, not too many. I tell you the key difference. So vision establishes the goal of the company. It is a forward-looking statement. The more global it is, the better, right? So this is what the company is supposed to become for the civilization or for the community in the future. The mission is what company does on a day-to-day basis to get closer to this goal, right? So the mission statement is looking into the present. And classical example is vision and mission of Amazon. So vision statement of Amazon is to be Earth's most customer-centric company where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online. Like plans to conquer the world, right? Now the mission statement, what Amazon does on a day-to-day basis. We strive to offer our customers the lowest possible prices, the best available selection, and the utmost convenience. You feel the difference? Good. Now, Accenture, for example, has the vision, but they don't have any mission statement published officially. They have 6 values instead. Values is what you want your people to, how you want your people to behave, right? So like customer first, or obey business ethics rules, or things like this. Now, as a founder, the mantra, by the way, the mantra is like a motto, is a slogan, call to action. Do the right things. Speak up. Things like this. This is a mantra. So as a founder of a small company or a manager of a small team, you probably don't need all of them. You may want to start thinking about this, but for public use, for use within your team, develop just one of them. Vision and or mission and or values and or mantra. Develop better together with the team. Invite your team to discuss and get this thing agreed, get your team's buy-in into this. Now, hire or nurture. This is eternal question, actually. How do I get the people I like? How do I get the people trusted enough to rely upon them, right? Whether I get them on external market or grow from within, there is no right question. To my point, this is the only thing, the only area where you depend on real luck. Now, the better your product is, the better you are as a leader, the more your chances to get lucky here. So culture and people, this is about this. Now, finally, once you tackled all these three areas, it's time to delegate and refocus. And the common mistake the managers do when delegating things to their newly selected deputy is that suppose I'm a manager or a founder, I invite you to my room, to my office, or for a private dinner for one-to-one audience. I tell you that I'm delegating, you're responsible in charge from now on, you're excited. You come to work the next day, you start talking to the team, and you realize that the team is not aware of your new role. Familiar situation? It is for many, right? So as long as you delegated things to anyone in your team, make sure that everyone else understands and realizes and acknowledges this delegation. Doesn't mean you have to ask their permission. Of course, you don't want to delegate things to anyone who will not be accepted by the team, right? But you don't have to ask their permission, but you need to make sure that they know about the fact of delegation. And once you've delegated, do not intervene, right? So let your new deputy do the things which he or she now is responsible for. Just like you do not come to your developer, say he works on a code, he writes like a bubble sorting algorithm in multi-threading environment, whatever else, right? You may come to them, you may ask how the things are doing, but you do not seize their keyboard and mouse to rewrite their code, right? Same with management, same with leadership, right? Once you've delegated, step out and let the people do the things as long as you trust these people. So once you've done on this, and again, these were a few measures, a few actions, but each of them is powerful enough for you to enable the transformation and to support the growth. So once you've done with this, it's time, not to sit back and relax. It's time to get back to that picture of this crazy man with coffee, but you are now busy on much more exciting and much more important things for the business. So to wrap it up, 4 areas you probably need to tackle in order to enable growth, and 2 closing comments. So first, this is a pain. Transformation is difficult, painful. you will hate this soul, but you are choosing this path anyway. You've chosen it when you decided to become a startup founder or to become a manager, to accept an offer. So you chose it yourself. And the other, I suggest that you make you a mate, a person who you talk to, a person who you share your concerns with, and ultimately a person who you will celebrate your success with. This could be a colleague, this could be your fellow co-founder, this could be a consultant, whoever it is, right? But better is together. This is very true for this kind of journey. Thank you.